All right, today we are going to be talking about these basic box properties in CSS. And when you're talking about the box properties, these are properties that you can apply on your elements. And when you're talking about box in general, everything that we have on the page, CSS is seeing them as a box. So whether it is text or it is image or any other element that you are going to be using later on, to CSS there is just seeing them as a box. And all these boxes, they have properties that are attached to them. And some of the properties are what I've listed out here that we need to discuss about, because these are the major properties that you are going to be using when you are dealing with box. So every element that you have on the page, they looks like box, or to CSS they are just box. For example, here now, let me select this element that I gave this class box, and let me give it this background color that we've already talked about. For example, here red. And scrolling down, as you can you see it like this? It looks like a box. Everything or all the element or all the contents that you are going to display on the screen, they always looks like a box to CSS. And this box that you are seeing here have some properties that you can apply on the box. Some of the properties you can apply here is the width, where else you can use to specify the width of the box. So what's the length of the box in the horizontal form, the horizontal side there. And again, to when you're talking about the height, what is the length of the box from here downward here. So when you're talking about the width, so it's going to be the length from here to here of the box. And when you're talking about the height, it's going to be the length from here to here of that box. So this is what we call the width of the box, and this is going to be the height of the box. So there's some time you need to change it, and you don't need to use what the browser is using by default or what the element is using by default. You want to change it to another width, or you want to change it to another height. That's where that width and height comes in there, like that. For example, right now, if I expand this browser, as you can see, the width of this box is depending on the browser width, because by default, I told you that all the block element always occupy the entire space, and that's what is going on here. But I don't want this thing to keep occupying the space like this. I want it to be of a definite height or to be a definite width. So here now, we can use a width property that you can use to limit your content or to limit the box or whatever the element that you are interacting with. And again, we've already talked about the CSS unit, but under it, we are able to talk about one, which is the rem. So the only one we're able to talk about under the CSS unit is this rem. But for today, I want to talk about this percentage, and I want to talk about this other two here, because they are kind of related to each other. What is different there is just what they are using to calculate their value. So when you're talking about percentage, this one is really useful when you want to relate the content or you want to relate child to the parent. So when you have a parent box and you have a child box, but you want the calculation of that child to be based on its parent, then you can use the percentage unit. For example, here now, inside this box, I actually have H1 here so that you can understand what is going on. So I have this box inside the H1. I want to give it this background color of yellow. So let me give it background color of yellow, and let me remove this width for now. So save. Then going back to the page, we should have the element having the yellow. And as you can see now, it's taking the total width of its parent. I mean, it's taking the total width of wherever it's coming from. But I don't want it to be like this. I want it to take half of its parent. So how do you talk to this element, this H1 now, that you want its width to be half of its parent? So you want to calculate the width of this H1 based on its parent. And anytime you need to calculate the value, or you need to do something on the child based on its parent calculation there, then you are going to be using percentage. So which means here now, we can just use width. So if I use like maybe 300 pixels like this, you see that it's always going to make sure that the box is having a weight of 300 pixels. As you can see, it stopped at this 300. It is no more getting to the edge because now we are controlling the weight of the box. But what I said I want to do is that I want it to be half of its parent. So in order for it to be half of the parent without you doing it from your head, then you can use the percentage instead of using the pixels or using the rem. So here now we can just say this element now is going to be 50%. So what does this percentage mean? What it means here is that it's going to go to the parent, which is this box, and it's going to calculate the weight of that parent. So whatever the weight of that parent, it will take the 50% of it. Whatever property you are using on the child and you are using percentage on it, it will go to the parent and calculate the percentage of that same property on the parent. So what this one means is that we want the width of this H1 to be half of wherever we place it. And as you can see, we are talking about the H1 that is inside the box. So which means it will take half of the box. And as you can see here now, it's going to the center. No matter the size of the box, it will always take half of it. So if I reduce my browser, as you can see, it has changed because we gave it here that whatever the width of this red box, that's what is going to take half of it. And if I change it to any number, you see that it will calculate the half based on that number. But for example here now, if I give this one a width of 300 pixels like this, and if I save it, you see that the red box will reduce to 300 pixels. Then this one too now, this H1, it's going to reduce to half of that 300 pixels. And how do you see all this saying? You know, I've mentioned it before. To see whatever the browser is doing behind the scene, you need to open the dev tools by going to the more tools here. Then you go to the developer tools, which I'm going to press this Control Shift I like this to bring it up. And from here, you can see everything that the browser is doing under this computed. So entering the body, going down to the element that we are working with, which is going to be the div there. So this is the element. As you can see, it's selecting it already on the page. So clicking on this element, as you can see, the width of the box, if you go under the computed and you scroll down, as you can see that the weight is 300 pixels, which is what we mentioned. But when you are talking about percentage, percentage is a relative unit. It's depending on something. And what is it depending on? Anytime you see percentage and you see it being used by the side or beside any property, what you have to do there is to go to the parent and look for the same property, then take the percentage of that number that the parent is using. It's not every time they are going to know the value of the parent. And that's the reason why I come here to show you whatever the value of the parent. So right now this box, its width is 300 pixels. If I don't specify it, that's how you are going to see the width. Because by default, it's going to take this entire width. And as you can see now, the width is 478. So if you want to see whatever the value that the browser is using for any element, just come to your DevTools. Under this element, under the computed, once you click on the element, it will show you all the CSS that is being applied on that element. And as you can see, the weight is 478. But I want to use a simple number that we can quickly use to calculate the stuff. Because here now, we have it as 300. So which means the element that is inside it that we are talking to it to take 50%, it means it's going to be 150, as you can see here. So what this thing is doing is that, how is it getting its final value? The way it's getting its final value is that it will look at the same property that you have on this, the same property you are using on the child. It will go to the parent and look for that same property. Then whatever value that is there, it will take the percentage of that value. So here now, the parent is 300 pixels. And since the parent is 300 pixels and we want the child to be 50% of it, so it means it will just multiply 50% by this 300 pixels. And that's the reason why we are getting the 150 here. And once the parent change, maybe the value change later on, maybe I update it to something else. For example, now I'm updating it to 400. It means the child too, it will get updated. As you can see, the child is now 200 because the parent is 400. And since the parent is 400, it will take half of that. And you can mention any percentage that you want based on whatever you want. You don't even need to be going to that place to check the value. What you are after is that you want to take the percentage. So yeah, I always want this H1 to be 70% of its parent. And as you can see, this is where the parent stop. So this H1 now it will make sure that it gets to 70% of whatever the size of that box. And when that box change, it will recalculate its new value so that it matches whatever the percentage that you use. So when you're talking about percentage, this percentage unit here, it's going to calculate it based on the parent of where this element is coming from. So whatever element where you are using percentage, it's going to calculate the value based on the parent and the same property. So the same thing here too. If I give this one maybe like 80%, or if I give it 50%, what I'm saying is that this box too is going to take the 50% of its parent. And what is the parent of this box? So if you go back to the HTML, you see that the body is the parent of that element. As you can see, this div is coming directly under this body. So which means whatever the size of the body, this one now is going to take 50% of it. And this H1 now, whatever the size of this one or whatever the width of this one will take 70% of it. So percentage is always useful anytime you want to relate parent and child together. So whatever that is happening on the parent, you want the child to take percentage of that particular value. That's when the percentage comes in. And as you can see now, the box is now taking 50% of the body. So if I increase the body, you see that one too increase its value again too. The H1 too will follow, because the H1 will always calculate 70% of this red, while this box, which is the red, we always calculate 50% of the body. So if you reduce it, it will reduce it to 50% of the current body we have right now. And once it increases, then it will recalculate the final value for it, because our percentage is a relative value, and whatever that is depending on change, it will recalculate its new value. And this percentage is really useful, or it's something we are going to be using a lot later on, anytime you need to relate the child and the parent together. But the major thing that we are talking about here is this width property, which allows you to specify the weight of your element. So you don't want your element to have more than this specific length in the horizontal axis here. So from here to here, what is the length of the element? That is what we call the weight. And you can use any of the units if you want. You can use the pixels, and you know that pixels doesn't change. So no matter what you do on the page, it will always maintain that value. So no matter what I do, it's always going to be that 300 pixels there. And again, when you're talking about the width, what this means is that the element will maintain that size. It will never change. If the value that you gave there is not changing at all, that element is going to maintain its size or the weight that you gave to it. But this width comes with some variants that we can use, because this width right now, it means the stuff cannot go down and it can't go more than this value. That's what we are saying here. So this box, it can't go less than 300, and at the same time, it can't go more than 300. It must stop on 300 pixels. But what if you want this box to grow, but it must not go past a particular value? Or what if you want this box to go down, but it must not go down than a particular value? That's where this other one comes in there. So here we have something known as mean width. So when you're talking about mean width, this one, you are not saying this box will stop here. It will only stop when the box is trying to go less than this value. For example, here now, if I use 320, or let me use 420 pixels like this, what this thing means is that this box can expand. As you can see, it can expand and it can go down. But as this box is going down, it can't go less than 420. So mean width means the box, it can go up, it can go down, but as this thing is going down, it can't go less than the value that we specify here like this. So this thing can go less than what we have here. So if you look at it now, so I'm increasing it, the value will increase. So if I decrease it, it will decrease, but it will get to a point, you see that it's not going down. Can you see now? It's not going down again. So it will never go down once it hits this value. That's what we call mean width. So mean width, we allow the box to go down or go up, but as the box is going down, once it reaches this value or it reaches less than this value, it will stop here. Once the value that you are having here is less than what you have here, then the box will not go less than what you specify here. So whatever value you give to mean width, it means that your box cannot go less than that. it can go less, like it can shrink, but it can't shrink more than what we have here. So, and as you can see from here, as I'm going up, it will increase. As I'm going down, it's decreasing the value because the size is changing. As you can see that the size is changing here. If you look at this side, you see that the value is actually changing. But it will get to a point, it will hit this value, or it will want to go less than what we specify here. Once you see that the value is trying to go less than what we specify here, then it will stop, because we said the minimum should be this. It can't go less than this. Whatever the width of this box, it can't go less than this in case the stuff change, and which is what I'm doing right now. So as I'm going down, it is 452 right now. But once you get to that 420, you see that, as you can see now, as I'm going down, it's no more going less than 420. This is what we call mean width here. So your box, it can shrink, but it can't go less than the value that you supply here. So just like the way we have mean width, we have max. So we have the max width too. So this one too, your box can increase, but it will never go past whatever the value that you specify at max. So here now, I can use maybe like 600. So what we are saying here is that this box, it can shrink, but it can't go less than 420. This one too means that the box can increase in width, but it can't go more than 600. So your box can never go more than 600, and it cannot go less than 420. It can go up, it can go down, but it can't go less than 420, and it can't go more than that 600. So once I save this value now, and if I go down, you see that it will go down, but it will get to a point. As you can see now, it's no more going down. You have to scroll left and right to see it, because it has already hit that 420. Again here too, it can go up, but it will get to a point, it will hit the value. Can you see now? It's no more going up again. It stopped at that 600, or let me even use a value that is going to get here on time. So let me save it like this. And as you can see, it can go down, but it will never go less than 420. Again, it can go up, but it will never go more than 520. So anytime you have your box that can grow, and it must not go to a particular value, you can use this your max. So max width, the box cannot go more than this. It can expand, but it can't go more than the value you supply here. Again, your box can shrink, like it can go down, but it can't go less than this particular value that we have for this. But when you are using width, width means it will not go less and it will not go more. So it will always stay on this value. So it will always stay at 300. So it will not go less than that value, and it will not go more than that value. But when you are using min and max, it can go down, it can go up, just like it cannot go less than this minimum, and it cannot go more than this maximum. And this thing is very important, because you are going to see this thing being used later on when we are working on our design there, like that. Look at this box here. This is a design here, and as you can see, this box, this entire box is not going past a specific week. You are going to see how to design this thing and the few classes that we're going to be having here. And if you look at this box, there is still enough space, but this box is not going more than this container. But it can shrink down and it can grow up, but it has limited growth and it has limited strength there, like that. Why? Because this thing is using min and max weights are here to specify what is going to happen when the box is going down or when it's increasing there. So here now, this box now, as I'm going down, can you see the stuff is shrinking, and again as I'm going up, it's expanding. But to get to a particular point, as you can see now, it's no more expanding again. It's just stop at that place. So what are you going to use to do this? That's what I'm explaining right now, which is your width, your mean width or max width, depending on what you want to do. So if you want the stuff to shrink, but it can't go less than a particular value, then you are going to use mean width. If it can grow, but it can't go more than a particular value, then you are going to use max width. So this max and mean, they have power over this width. So if you use the two of them together, they have power. As you can see, it's no more use 300 again, because we said the mean should be 420. So minimum and maximum, they have power over this your width. So they will always take higher precedence if you have the three of them together. Even though this thing is 300, as you can see, it did not stop at 300. It's going more than that, because we said the minimum should be 420. And again too, it can't go more than 500. No matter how you increase it, there it will never go more than 500 like that. So this thing is very important. And the same thing we are doing for the width, that's the same thing you can do for the height. So if you don't want to talk about the width, you can talk about the height of the box. So just like the way we are changing the width, we can change the height. By default, the height of the box is depending on the content that is inside it. So if the content is big, the height of the box is going to increase up to that place. As you can see, I have 3 content here: the heading, the paragraph, and the button. That's why this our box is having this height. So the reason it's having this height is because of the content starting from here all the way to this place. But what if I want the height to be more than this, or if I want it to be less than this? So what can you do there? You can specify the height to like that. Yeah, so as I was saying there, just like the way we have the width, we can control the height of the box too, because it's not every time that the box will just keep increasing anyhow the way it wants. You want to limit it to a specific height of the box. So for example, here now I can just say the box is going to have width of 300 pixels, and as you can see now, it's not depending on the content that is inside it. It's now having a height of 300 pixels. So from here to here now is 300 pixels. If you want it to be like that, or if you want it to be less, which can cause a problem, but we are going to see how to solve that problem soon. So here now I can use 150 pixels like that, and as you can see now, it stopped on this line. But I actually want this thing to cause the problem so that I can explain the next property, because everything you can do with this width is the same thing you can do with height. So it comes with its own max height, and it comes with its own main height in case you need that. But right now I'm focusing on the height like that. So if I save it, can you see what is now happening now? Something is happening here now, as you can see. So anytime you use height or width and the content that is inside that box are going outside of it, we call that stuff overflow. So you are going to get overflow. That means the content are going, can you see now? They are now jam packed on top of the other elements on the page. This is what we call overflow. And this overflow will happen anytime the height of the box cannot contain, or the width of the box. So it can be width or it can be height. So as long as the container in general, so we are talking about the width and the height of it, and anytime you apply anything like width and height, and those height and weight are not enough to accommodate the content that is inside that box, you are going to get something here that is known as overflow. And what is overflow? All the content that is inside the box, they will start going on top of other content that you have on the page. And as you can see now, things have jam packed together. These are other elements that are not supposed to be here, but because the box is not having the height that can accommodate the content that is inside it, so all this content now, they are now going outside of it. So let me increase it to 100 so that you can see it. So it depends on the height. As you can see here now, part of the paragraph are inside, while part of them are outside, and it's jam packing with the other content. So how do you solve this problem of the content? Because there is some time that your content will actually grow more than its container. So how can you solve this problem? That's where this overflow comes in. So overflow property is what you can use to control how the content that are going outside of the container are going to behave there like that. For example, now look at this page. So let me go to their page, and you can see some of the sample of overflowing of content here. So can you see this here? Can you see the entire white box? It is not really enough. So this height of this box is not really that enough for it to accommodate all the content that is inside it. But if you look at it, the content are not going outside. What is happening is that the user can scroll up and down. So when you collapse this box now, you see that we have enough space. There is nothing like scrolling again, because you can have like all the content are inside the box. Well, once you expand any one of them, as you can see, they will start going outside. But how do you to do something like this? Anytime the content is going outside, you don't want it to go like that. You want it to give you this kind of a scrolling bar like that you can use to scroll the content up and down, or you can even hide the content if you don't want it. That's where this overflow property comes in. So this is our content now that is going outside of the screen. We can just talk to it by saying overflow. But when you are talking about overflow, there are two types of overflow. We have the one for the y and we have the one for the x. And when you talk about the one for when you just say overflow like this is what we call short-term property. I think I've mentioned it before. So short-term property is a way of you applying one property on different property. Like one property here can do the work of multiple property at the same time. So this overflow now, when you use it, it can work for both this overflow y and overflow x. But if you need to work on a particular one there, you can just call any one of them that you need. So x will work for the horizontal movement, how your content, that's the width. So when the content is going outside of the box in the horizontal direction, then you can use overflow x to control it. When it is going vertically, which is the height, then you can use overflow y. And if you want to control the two of them at once, then you can use overflow. So overflow will control both the x and y in case something is going outside. And these are different values you can use. This is what is there by default, which is feasible. And what is feasible is what is doing outside here now. It means whatever content that is trying to go outside of that container, you are going to see them and they are going to overlap the other content, which is not what you want. So most of the value you are going to hear is like scroll here. And what is scroll? Scroll is now going to give you the undo bar. Can you see now? No content is going outside again. But now we have this undo that we can use to scroll up or scroll down to see the content. So instead of the content to be going outside of that container, it's now giving all this scroll bar. And as you can see, it's happening on both the x and y. So this is the y and this is the x. But nothing is going outside of the x. That's why we cannot scroll left and right. But assuming our container now is not up to that, maybe for example here, let me remove all this one and let me use a width that is really small. So once I use a width that is really small, you see, can you see now? We can see it too on the x. So when you use scroll, it's working for both x and y anytime you mention overflow. But if you want to control any side, you can just mention the side you want. So if I use overflow y like this, it will only control y like that. But by default, CSS is going to change x too. But if I use the x like that, so it's going to control some of them because behind the scene, CSS is making some default value that we don't want like that. But you can use overflow x and overflow y to control each one of them based on the one you want. So here now I can use something known as hidden. And what is hidden? It means you don't want anything to overflow on the y there. So anything that is trying to overflow on the y, you want to cut them out or you want to hide them. I'm going to show it more with a long distance. Can you see now on the y, there is nothing like that scrolling back again. Anything that cut out, anything that you have on the y that is going outside is going to cut them out. So you cannot scroll up and down. But we can still scroll on x because here now we mention it for the x to be scroll and for the y to be hidden. But instead of me mentioning them one by one like this, I can just apply it for all of them like that without specifying one side, and it's going to apply to all of them. But let me return this box so that you can see the other value in action, which is this hidden. So when you don't use scroll and you use hidden, what that means is that any content that is going outside, as you can see, is going to cut them out. The content that's still there, but it's cutting them out based on the content or based on the height of the box. So if you increase the height of the box, you see that some of them are going to come outside again, but the button is no more outside because it's still down. It has been cut out there. So when you use hidden, what you are saying is that anything that is trying to go outside of that container, you don't want to see it outside. They have to be cut out there. And that's what is being used on this page here. If you look at this edge that is going on here, this content is supposed to go outside of it. But because we don't want it to go outside, it's being hidden here. So that's what you'll be using to make sure that the content that is inside this box, they are not going outside of it, because all the content by default, if the container is not accommodating them, they will go outside. But you don't want them to go outside. So what do? You use your overflow of this hidden to hide it. But if you still want to see the content, so you can use this scroll, and it's going to give you the undo that you can use to scroll up or down to see the remaining content. As you can see now, we can see the remaining content. But this scroll too is really bad. And why is it bad? Like that. So even if the content is not scrolling at all, as you can see, it's still going to show this scroll bar there. Even though you cannot scroll, like this X now, we cannot scroll there. So why do we need to see it when we cannot scroll? So instead of you using scroll, what you'll be using is auto here. So this one, it will switch between the normal mode and the scrolling mode based on whether that stuff can scroll or not. And as you can see here now, it's not showing anything by the side. But now if I activate the box again with the height, you see that it's only showing it on the Y, it's not showing it on the X. Why? Because we set it to auto. So it will be switching between the scrolling and the not scrolling of the content there based on whether there is space or no space. So if there is no space, you are going to get the scrolling bar to scroll to see the remaining content both on the X and Y depending on the one that the content is trying to go outside. So now that the content is not going outside on the X, as you can see here, nothing is showing under. So because only the Y, that's where the content is trying to go outside, that's why it is showing it here. But if you are using scroll, that one doesn't care whether it can scroll or not, it will only show that bar. And as you can see now on the X, it is now showing the bar there like that. And NEPA just took my lights. So I hope you can still see my screen because I was showing this thing from the other screen, but now NEPA has taken the light. So let me remove. Hello. Let me pause my recording. All right, so let me resume back. Yeah. So, and as you can see from here now, it's always going to show on the side that I want, not all the side when you're using auto. But when you use scroll, it doesn't care. So it will always show that scrolling bar. But what you see that is there is no thumb. This is what we call the thumb, which is what you use to scroll up and down or left and right, depending on which is the same thing is happening. So this thing is happening automatically on the body. As you can see that on the body, when the content is more than 8, it will give all this scrolling bar to scroll. So the same thing too is what we are dealing with our container. So when you don't have more content inside the body, you are not going to see this thing. The only time you see it is when the content is more than the body. And in order for you to get something like that, you need to use auto. So auto is only going to display it when there is need for it. So when there is need for you to scroll, in order for you to see the remaining content there, it's going to show the box. But if there is no need for it, then it will not show this. But if you don't even want to see anything that is trying to go outside at all, then you can use hidden. So this one, whatever that is going outside, as you can see, it will cut out the stuff. So the box will make sure that it is 100, and anything that is going outside, it will cut them out of that place. And that's what the overflow is there for. And we're going to be using it a lot later on there like that. So the system I'm using for recording is the battery is not that strong. So yeah, I'll quickly jump into this other property that we have here, which is this border. So this is another property that work with box, because anything that looks like box on the page or everything you have on the page are just box to CSS. And these are the properties you can apply on them, whether you are dealing with div or you are dealing with form or you are dealing with h1 or any other element, is still going to apply the same thing on them. So right now I'm using div to just explain what is going on there, but it can happen on any element. As you can see from here, I can apply width on my this h1 or any other elements that we have on the page. But right now I want to talk about border, which is another property here, and that property we use it to put a line around our box. So when you need a line around box, that's where this one comes in there. And as you can see this one here, can you see this button here? There's a tiny line around all this box. Again too, when you're dealing with form, you know our inputs by default, they have all these box around them like that. So let me go to the form that we worked on, and let me copy some of the form elements that we talked about like that. So yeah, I think this place. So let me just copy everything from here to this place and just put it inside this our CSS HTML file like that. So paste, so save, and scrolling down, you see that all these our inputs, can you see there's a tiny line around them. So this line here is what we call border. And how do you control it? Just in case you want to change the color on that your element, or you don't want it to be the black that is here, you want the edge to be round and so forth like that. That's where this property comes in for you to change. As you can see here now, once I click on this box like that, even they are not doing it on this side. So let me go to the site where it's being done like that. So this site should be doing it. So let me click on their login page. So let me go to the login so that we can see the form on that page. And as you can see now, can you see that the color here is different like that? They are using another color entirely, which is like this light gray or a gray color around the box like that. So how can we do something like this? How can we create our own line that is always around all the element? It's always around all the element. So in order for you to create something like that, you need to use the border property. And when you're talking about border property, this is a shorthand property too, because when you're dealing with border, there are 4 sides to your element. So when you're dealing with border, we have 4 sides because it's always work with 4 sides. And what I mean by side, this is the top there. So we have the right, we have the bottom, and we have the left. This is how it moves. So it's moved from the top, then to this, and to this, and to this. Because that's how you're going to be specifying some other values later on there like that. So you can apply the border for the top only, or you can apply for the right only, you can apply for the bottom only, and you can apply for the left only if you want. And you can apply to all of them at once, which is what I want to do right now. So when you call border, this is a shorthand property that you can use to set your border color. You can use it to set your border width. You can use it to set your border style. So when you are dealing with border, there are things that you need to supply. As you can see, it can help you to set the width of the border. It can help you to set the type of the line, and it can help you to set the color of the line like that. So when you're dealing with it, you are going to specify the width of the line that you want there around the box. For example, here now, I want my line to be 3 pixels there like that. And once I save, as you can see, nothing is showing here. Why? Because I need to supply the type of the line that I want. As you can see, you need to supply the width, the type of the line you want, and the color. The color is not necessary, but these two are very important there like that. So the size or the width is 3. Then what is the type of the line that I want? I want the line to be solid. And as you can see here now, it's not appearing on my H1 because I'm targeting H1. But I don't want it on the H1. I want it on the box. So I'm going to move it to this box. And as you can see now, there is now this line around our box. So the line around the box is what we call the border. So the line around the box is what we call border. And you can apply border at once to all the side by just calling border. But if you need it for a particular side, just mention the side you want. So if I want it for the left only, I will just use border left. And as you can see, it's only going to be on the left side. So if I want it for the right, I just need to use border right. If I want it for the top, I just need to do border top and so forth like that, depending on the side. But if you just say border, it will apply to all of them at once. And the last thing we need to specify is the color. For example here, I want the color to be green. So we want the line around the edge of the box. This is the width of the box. So if I use like 10 now, you see that the box is going to get, or the line is going to get thicker, but it's really much. So I'm going to use 2 like this, like that. And at the same time, what is the style of the line? By default, you have the solid, which is just a normal line around the box, but you can actually use 2 lines around the box. So let me increase it so that you can see what is going on there like that. And as you can see now, this box, let me remove all this width and height so that it will use the normal height and width on this box. So let me hide all this one so that it doesn't affect, so that we can see everything like this. So as you can see now, the style of this box now is down double. So we have different style that you can use like that. We have solid, which is what you'll be using most of the time, which is just a single line around the box. We have dotted. Sometimes you might need this, but most of the time it is solid that you need. So which is going to generate this type of stuff around the box. But most of the time, what you need is just solid, which is just a normal line. And most of the time, the size we normally use or the width is just 1 pixels or 2 pixels. Most of the time you won't go past this 1 pixels like that. But for now, I will just use a bigger number so that you can see what is going on there. So the border is what you can use to control the line around your box, and that's what you'll be using later on now for all your inputs to control whatever that is there, or whatever line that the browser is generating by default. For example, now if I select all the inputs like this, so I can change the border color to something else. So if you want to change only the border color, just mention the border color like this, and it's going to help you to change it. So there's a lot of short-term property here that can help you to just do all of them at once instead of you calling them one by one. And that's what the border is doing. So it's changing multiple property at the same time. So it's changing the border width at the same time. It's changing the border style like that. So we have the border style. So that's the solid and whatever stuff that you are applying there. And again too, it's changing the border color. So the border, this single property here, is changing 3 things at once for all the side. So for all this, my input now, I want it to be 1 pixels, then solid red. So all the inputs, as you can see now, that line now is going to change the type. And if I don't want it to be solid, I can just use this dotted like this. And you see that it's going to be dotted version that it will be using. And I can increase this into 2 pixels so that it will come outside more like that. So border will allow you to control the line around your element like that. So, and it's work on all the elements. Again too, as you can see, all these buttons here, they have this tiny line around them. That's the border, and you can control it or change it to anything you want later on there, which is something we are going to be using like that. But how do we do something like this too? How do we do something like this? So if you look at the edge of this box, as you can see that it is curved. Look at the edge of this button, it is curved here. So how do we do something like this? That's where this property comes in, which is known as border radius. So border radius is what you can use to change the curve or the edge of your box. So just like the way we have the border that you can change the line around the box, we have the border radius that can change the radius or the curve of the edge of the box. And when you're talking about this, it works based on edge. So it starts from here. So it's working based on edge, not the side. So we are talking about edge now. When you're talking about border, it's working on the side. But when you're talking about this one here, it works based on edge. So we have this top left edge. We have this top right edge. We have this bottom like this. And we have this bottom left. So this allows you to apply the edge or to change the edge around this your box. And this border radius too is a short-term property. So when you just say border radius, it will change all of them at once, or you can change them separately depending on the value you are giving to it. So you can give it 1 value, can give it 2 value, can give it 3 value, and you can give it 4 values. And based on the number of values you give to it, it's going to work there like that. So when you give it 1 value, because this is very important too, we're going to be using this thing too when we get to margin and padding soon like that. So this border radius, you can use it to change all the edge at once you give it 1 value. As you can see here now, the edge now is curved based on the value that I use there. So if I use maybe like 45 rem, as you can see, it's going to be more rounded like this. But this value is too much, so I just want to use 1 rem like that. And as you can see, it's changing all the side at once like that. So that 1 value that we have here, it's going to change this side. It's going to change this side. It will change this side, and it's going to change this side. But what if you are not giving it value? You are giving it maybe 2 value like this. So how is it going to work? So this one is different. So when you are working with 2 value, the way it works is this. So the first value will go to this side. The second value, because as I is distributing the value 1 by 1 based on the way you are specifying it. So starting from the top left, so the second value will go to this one. But now there is no value for this other one. So what would they do? They will take from their opposite side. So any one of them that did not have value will take from the opposite side. So which means this one we take from here, and this one that did not have 2 we take from here. So which means this first value that we have here is for this one and this one. Why the second value we have here is for this and what we have down here. I hope you are following. So as you can see now, so 1 rem is for this and what we have down here, while 3 rem is for this, then this other one too, it will copy from the other side like that. So when you are using two value, the first value, it's going to go to this side. The second value is going to go to this side. But the other one that did not have value now, they will take from their opposite. So this one will take from this side, and this one will take from this side. So which means this 1 rem is for this side and this side, while the second value is for this side and the side we have here. So that one is when you are giving it 2 value. What if you are giving it 3 value? So what will happen? So it follow the same thing here too, just like what we mentioned here. So the first value, it will go to this side. The second one, it will go to this side. The third one, it will go to this side. So which means this side is not having value. So that one too, it will still take from the opposite. Any one of them that did not have value will take from the opposite. And the way the value moves is in clockwise. Started from this. So this is first value, this is second value, this is third value, and this is fourth value. But any one of them that did not have value, they will take from the opposite side. So if you give it 1 value, all of them will use it. If you give it 2 value, then this one and this one is for the first, this one and this one for the second. And if you give it 3 value, so this one will not take from this side again, it will be using the third value. And once this one is saved now, as you can see, this one is now having its own value. It's not taking from its opposite again. And lastly, when you give it maybe 4 value like this, then each one of them are going to take their corresponding value like that. So this first number will go to this, the second one will go to this, the third one will go to this, and the last one will go to this side like that. And you can change each one of them on a separate line. You don't need to use them on one line like this, the way I'm doing it, because all these things, they are short-term property. You can actually change each one of them that you need separately. So here now, as you can see, we have the top left. So this one now, it will only change only this side. So if you want to change them one by one separately on each line, you can do it, but it's just a waste of time. And that's why we are going to be using the short-term property, because it's quite easier to work with them compared to working with them separately. So if you want to do the top right too, you have to do this one now. So border, top, right, then radius. That one is for right alone. Again, you still do for the bottom left and for the bottom right, which is waste of typing. But instead of us calling them one by one like this, what we can just do is to do it on one line easily like this. And with this one now, can change only the bottom side by just saying 0, 0, 1, 1 rem, 1 rem like this, because I know that it's always going to change the bottom side. And if I only want to change the top side, I know that the first 2 value is what I need. So 3 rem like this, so 3 rem 0, 0. And if I save it, you see that the top are going to change. And if I only want to change the right side, I know the value to update. So this is going to be 0, 3 rem like that. So 3 rem like this and 0. And once I save it, as you can see, it will only update this aside. Why? Because the first value there is always going to this. The second one is always to this. The third one is always to this. And the last one is always to this when you are giving the 4 value. But any one of them that did not have value, they will take from their opposite side there like that. So that's how this property work. And in the next class there, I'll be talking about this box shadow, margin, and padding, because this battery, I don't want this video to I don't want it to shut down and the video will just go like that. So I will need to stop here because of light. My generator is not working correctly right now. So I need to stop here because this thing has already shown it's not that strong. It will go off now. I don't want this thing to see it's showing 34. It was 40 something before. All right, so let me stop